Hey hackers, Blue Cosmo from CCS here, and welcome to Module 4 of the Introduction to Python 3 course. I guess we should, get started. I'll show my screen. Today we'll be covering loops. No, we covered that last time. we're doing list and data structures. That's right. So I guess I'll open up my text editor. And we'll save this empty file to our IP3. Cool. So we can make a new folder, and we'll call this one Module 4. Then let's open Module 4, and then we'll make we'll make a file called list.py. Cool. So what is a list, right? Because we covered lists in the last module, but we never really talked about, we never went in depth into it, right? So I kind of saved this module for the whole world of lists and stuff. So lists, they are a data structure. That can hold multiple values. Now, I'm sorry if I mistype anything. I'm typing as quick as I can. And again, everything I do in every video is on the course overview, linked in the GitHub page, linked in the description. So, or if you're watching this on my website, then there's the course overview button in the bottom left of the page. Click that and it'll take you to the course overview. Cool. So lists are a type of data structure that can hold multiple values. Now, lists are often referred to as arrays, but arrays in Python are different, very different than other languages, because you can assign different data types to a list, but in arrays in Java, for example, that list or array can only hold one data type. Remember, a data type is like a string, boolean, integer, float, etc. So in other languages like Java, a list could only hold integers, or it could only hold strings. In Python, our list can hold multiple data types. All right, we're going to be talking about indexing a lot, and I remember I mentioned from that last module, but an index is basically the placement or location of a item in a list. All right, so placement or location of a value in a list. All right. Now, with indexes, the first item is 0, and then it ascends from there, right? Remember, I mentioned the first item in a list is 0, the second would be 1, the third will be 2, and we'll kind of go in depth on that throughout this module, right? So how do we make a list? How do we initialize a list, right? We create lists using square brackets, all right? And square brackets are these square-looking brackets, basically. And we can store values in these brackets, like 3, and then we separate them with commas. So 3, 5, we do 8, we do true, we do hello. So this is a list. We have a two square brackets where we can store multiple values, right? Now that's cool. Now we can assign these lists to a variable. So we'll call this my list equals. Now, for the record, you don't want to name variable names after an object that already exists in a program or in the programming language. So you don't want to name your variable like print or you don't want to name a variable list, because list is a function that we covered in the last module. So don't call your list a list, call it something else, because it can cause errors in your code. So we can print our list, or my list, right? And I'll move this module to the right side. So, and it just outputs our list. It's pretty cool. So we can actually add lists together, right? So we have other list, and this other list will be equal to 895 or something. Then we can say full, I'll just use LST because it's shorter. Or no, now it's inconsistent. So full list equals my list plus other list. And then we can print my list and run this. And you can see, oh, sorry, we need to print full list. And when we run this, you can see that we added our other list here, right? So, I don't know, we can add list. We can also print the index of a list, right? Or we can print the index of an item in a list. So let's print, in order to print the index of something in a list, you say the list name, so we'll just use full list, and then in the square brackets you can annotate what item in a list you want to, or the index of what item in a list you want to print out. So you remember, the first item in a list is the 0th item. This would be the first item, the second item, the third item. So if we want to print true, we would hit 3, enter 3 here, and when we run it, it would print out the true, because it's the the 4th item in the list, but it has the index of 3. If we were to print the index of 1, right? If I were to print the full list, I'm pretty sure this is connected to our code, so I can do this full list 0. Yeah, okay. So our module is connected to our Python file. So we can do print full list with the 0th item, and it would print 3. If we were to print the full list and we were to print the item at index 1, it would be 5. So you can actually print the index of items in a list. We're going to make a new one, or a new file. We're going to call this list functions. We'll do list functions methods.py, because there are a lot of different functions and methods we can do to our list. So I did mention what a method was before, but a method is a function that relates directly to an object or a statement, right? So let's make a list. We'll call this a list, and our list will equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Let's talk about the list methods. Now, lists have certain methods that are, specific to a list object. So we first have the append method, and I'm gonna make a new line here. So append method, and the append method adds value to the end of a list. All right, let's do a list.append We can just do 6, and we can print a list, right? Because that only appends it in memory. It's not going to actually rewrite the code file, because when we rerun the file, a list is going to equal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again, right? And it only allocates, it in memory, not in the actual file. When I say in memory, I'm talking about RAM, but we're not going to get into that. So we can talk about the insert method. All right, in the insert method, inserts a value at a specific index. So we can do a list dot append. A list dot insert, and then we can insert our value at a certain index, right? So we're going to choose the index of 2, and then we're going to insert the number 9. All right, so this will insert the number 9 at index 2. So 0, 1, 2. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 9, I believe. And then we can print 3 is index 2, right? So it's going to put 9 here and push all this to the right, right? So we can print a list, and then we can run this. So we can see, I'm gonna just print a list just so we can see what it used to look like and what it looks like now. So our list methods, right? We started off with the list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we appended 6 to the end. Now we inserted 9 in index 2. And talk about the index method. And this index method will return the index of the first occurrence of the argument. So we can do a list dot, or we can just print a list dot index, and we want to find the index of, 2. So this will give us the index of the first occurrence of the number 2. So if we run this, the index is 1, because the index of the number 2 is 1. All right, so now we can talk about the count method. So count method will return how many times a value appears in a list. All right, so we can print a list.count, and we can count 3. So I'm going to actually add a value of 3 here, just so we can see it count how many times 3 appears in this code. So the number 3 appears twice. So, this list.count, and then this count will count how many times the number 3 appears in a list. So we can make a new method, or talk about the next method, which is remove. The remove method, it will remove the first occurrence of a value. Do a list that remove, and what value should we remove? Let's remove the number 3, because we added this 3 at the end here. So if we print our list again and run the code, you can see that it removed the first occurrence of the number 3, which was right here. Or actually, it was right here now. So it got moved over here. And now the 3 is no longer there, because it was removed from the list. All right, so the next method we will be covering is the pop method. So the pop method will remove the last item in a list. So we can do a list dot remove, a list dot pop, and then we can print a list. And when we run it, move this back to the right here, it removes the 6 because it's the last item in the list, right? So we can go here. Let's make the new one. So the next method is reverse. And this is the reverse method. And this removes, this reverses the order of the list. So this will reverse the order of a list. So we can do a list dot reverse. And then we can print a list. So when we run this, it made the list backwards. So this used to be 1, 2, 9, 4, 5, 3. And now it just reversed the list. A, 5, 4, 9, 2, 1. So that's actually it on the methods, right? So these are all the methods that we will cover for a list, right? This has nothing to do with list methods. We can just print that out up here. Cool. So now we can talk about list functions. And the first list function we'll talk about is the length function. And this will return the length of a function. So just to specify length of a list. So just to specify, you will see me put return or returns a lot. So when it returns a lot, or when it returns a value, it basically means it's like returning a value, right? So it's not doing anything to the list per se. It's just returning value. So we have to print it out rather than just doing something to a list and then printing what the list now looks like. We can just print this returned value that we got from this function, right? And that will come very important later on. So we can't just, so we can do length, and then we can do a list. And when we run this, the length of the list is 6, because there's 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 items in this list, so it will return the value of 6. Then this is the max function, and this will return the largest value in a list. So we can do print max a list, and when we run this, the largest value is 9, right? And we can do the same thing, but for the minimum. So we can do min function, and this will return the smallest, or let's say the lowest value in a list. And we can print min and then our list. So when we run this, the lowest value in this list is 1. So it outputted the number 1. Those are all the functions we're going to cover in this section. So these are the list functions. We covered these 3. And then we have these list methods that you can use on your functions. So feel free to practice with those. Get familiar with these list methods and list functions. All right, so we'll make a new file. We'll call this list boolean .py. So if we have L equal a list, remember this list function, from the range, we'll say 1 to 11, which is 10. We have a list from 1 to 10, and if you, for whatever reason, don't understand, if we type in L, we have our list from 1 to 10. Remember this list function that turns data into a list that we learned last module? This is perfect. So now, instead of having to make a list by hand, so we can do, I'll just do O equals, 1, 2, 3. Like, this is going to take a while. Like, you're going to have to manually type out 1 through 10, or you can just type in L equals a list from the range of 1 to 11 or 1 to 10. So we can actually do Boolean values. So we can use the in operator, and we can see print 3 in L. So when we run that, it'll say true. Yeah, the number 3 is in our list. We can also try the not operator. So the not operator, I don't think we covered this. Actually, no, we did cover this. Yeah, the not operator. So we can print not 5 in list or in L. And if we run this, it will invert the value because the 5 is in list. Now, reading this not 5 in list, that sounds weird. So you can actually print, let's use 8 not in list. And that just is easier to understand, and it will return the same thing. So if we use 5, this will still be false. 5 is not in the list or not 5 in list. They both do the same thing. I've always found, this easier to understand, 5 not in list. But it's up to you on how you want to do that. So we can save this. All right, so let's move on to the next section called list slicing. This is actually a pretty interesting topic we cover. So we'll do list slicing.py, and then we'll delete all this. Cool. So what does list slicing allow us to do? So we'll just do slicing. It generates new lists between set indexes. So we can generate new lists between set indexes. I'll make a doc stream. So the first value will be the index that starts the list. The second value will be the index that ends the list. All right. So let's see some examples of this, right? So you guys actually know what I'm talking about. So let's make a list, and this list will do list range 1 to 21. And so we'll do from the range of 5 to 50, and with increments of 5. So we'll make this 51 so we can stop at 50. And so if we print our list, when we run this, it'll go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way to 50, right? So remember, this is the starting range, this is the end, and this is the increment. So now we can actually do some slicing. So this is a list slice. So we can say, we can print our list, and we can go from the index of 2 all the way to the index of 5, let's say. So we're creating a list from the first value, which is the first index. So if we, what is it, 2, 0, 1, 2. So we're going to make a list from 2 to 35 about. So we run this. So we're making a list from the value of 15 to 25 because it's the second index all the way to the 5th index. So now we just created our own list from this list. All right, guys. So let's talk about blank values, right? So if we leave the first value empty, right? So leaving the first value empty will print the values until it reaches the listed index, all right? So if we print our list, leave the first value empty, and go to the placement of, let's say, 7, or to the index 7, when we run this, it will print our list all the way until the 7th index. Now, what happens if we leave the second value empty? So leaving the second value empty will print the values until it reaches the end, right? From the listed index to the end, all right? So leaving the second value empty, we print the values from the listed index to the end, all right? So we can print our list, and we can leave the second value empty. So let's start from the 3rd index and leave this empty, and then finish our print statement. So when we run this, it will print the 3rd index, which is 20, and then leaving it blank will print the rest of it until the end, all right? Leaving both empty will just print the indexes until it reaches the final index, right? So leaving both empty will print the indexes until it reaches the end, right? So we can print our L and then our colon, this, and then the parentheses. So when we run this, it's essentially going to print out the whole list, right? But this is important to know because if we add a third value, adding a third value will create an interval. So if we print our list, and let's say we want to print from the 4th index to the end in an interval of 2. When we run this, it'll print, the 4th index, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so 25, and then every 2, it will print. Now you can also leave it blank, and it will print the whole, it will print the whole list in intervals of 2. So 5, 1, 2, 15, 1, 2, 25, 1, 2, 35, 1, 45, right? So, do as you wish with that. If you make the third value a negative number, so making the third value a negative number, the slice is done backwards. So if we print our list, and let's say it's : -1, this will essentially just reverse the list. So it'll go 50, 45, 35, 25, etc. So if you need to reverse a list, you can do this, or you can use the dot reverse. And we can make our new file and call this list comprehension. .py. So we can get rid of all this, and we can talk about list comprehension. So it's very straightforward concept. So I'm just going to do comprehension. So we can generate lists using a rule or conditional. All right. So count by 2. Is going to be our list, right? So this is similar to the ternary operator what we were talking about earlier in module, I don't even know, 3, I think, or 2 maybe, I forgot, the ternary operator that we covered beforehand. And it's very similar to that, so we can use our arbitrary variable. So we'll call this I, and we'll I times 2 for I in the range of 10. So if we run this, oh, I didn't print it out. Print count by 2. Now I'm going to explain how this works in 1 second, but just to give you guys a visual. So this count by 2 worked exactly the same way as the operator does. We have, as the ternary operator does. So we have this value, which is I, and then we multiply it by 2 for I in the range of 10. So this I assigns itself to this I value for every number in the range from 0 to 9, basically. And it will multiply itself by 2. And because we put it in these brackets, the values will be assigned to a list. So when we print it out, count by 2, it will print out the values of 0 to 9 multiplied by 2. So it will show us counting by 2, right? That's how list comprehension works. And we can add conditionals if we want, right? So this is list comprehension. And then we can make a new list comprehension, but add conditionals with it, so with conditionals. So we can do, and the conditionals is the ternary operator, right? So we can do odd numbers, and we'll have this be equal to on the brackets that identify a list. Then we'll do I for I in the range of 5 if I is greater than, if I divided by 2 is greater than 0. Now, first of all, if you guys remember the conditional section, this was, or in the Boolean section, this right here was one of the helpful Boolean values I showed you guys, right? This detects odd numbers. So what we're able to do is this arbitrary variable of I. So I is assigned the value for every number in the range of 1 to 5 if I divided by 2 has a remainder of 0. So once we print this out, we can print out odd numbers, and when we run this, it'll have 1 through 3, right? So we can go up if we want to. We can go up to the range of 10 as well. And it will print odd numbers from 1 to 10. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. And there you go. So now that's how you can easily get a list of odd numbers, right? So you're like, okay, this is cool, but what's the point of this? Well, let's say for whatever reason you're making a program that needs all the odd numbers from 1 to 100. Well, you can, in this one line, you don't have to manually write out this whole list. You can just generate the odd numbers by yourself. So generate all the odd numbers in one line. So that's why things like this come into use. So that's actually it for when it comes to teaching you guys this. But now it's time that we work on the project. Now, I figured a cool project we can do is a dog name generator, because we can have a list of dog names, we can iterate, we can use conditionals and all this other stuff, right? But if you don't want to follow along with me, you guys can try to make your own dog name generator if you want. And you go ahead and leave. If you don't, and you want to join me on working on this project, then stay here and watch me code, right? If you want some other ideas of what you can make, you can also make some sort of vending machine program, right? With a list that can hold the values of like items in the vending machine, and then the indexes would represent the items in the vending machine. You can also do filter specific items in a list, right? If you can add user input to lists, and kind of just, feel free to have your creative mind flow. But we're going to make a new file. So we're going to call this dog name tag generator .py. All right, and I guess we can delete all this. So we can at the top do dog name generator, and we can do a created by Cosmo. You can put your name there, of course. And let's have the banner. So the banner will just print our dog name generator colon, and then you can have it be on the new line. Cool. So we can have dog name lists, and they'll be gender respective, right? So we can have our male dog names, and this will be equal to, I don't know, we can call this guy Duke. We can call Sam is a pretty good dog name. We can do Flipper. If you guys watch Mr. Robot, you'll know Flipper, the dog. We can do Elliot, because that sounds like a dog name, and that's the main character from Mr. Robot. And we can do, I don't know, Junior. And we can do female dog names, right? And what are some names you would name a dog? We do Lucy. We can do Bailey. We can do Cleo. We can do Sadie and Zoe. There you go. Now we can have our output format, because we're going to be looping a lot and I don't want to write the same thing multiple times. So we're going to do output format. And this will be output format equals you should name your dog this. And that's going to be the output of whatever we tell them to name the dog, right? So now we can loop code in case of exception, and we'll have our while true. So this will make an infinite loop, but we can always break it. So we'll get some user input, and let me scroll down a little bit. So user input, and this will be the gender, and we'll say print what is your dog's gender, and then we'll do backslash n, we'll do male, and backslash n, we'll do 2, and we'll do female, and dog gender is equal to an int version, or the integer version of the input, and this input is going to be just answer, I guess, or option, and we'll ask for what option they chose, right? And the only reason I'm doing this is just because, you know, it doesn't matter if it's an integer or not. I'm just doing that just so we can, you know, apply this data type in here. Actually, you know what? We don't need it, to be honest. I'll add it if we need it. So here we can do user input random number. All right, and we can do random number is equal to int input. This will have to be an integer because we're asking them for a number specifically. So we can do pick a number between 1 and 5. All right, and we'll have to close that. So we can check if random number is between 1 and 5. So we can say if random number is less than or equal to, if the random number is less than or equal to 5 and the random number is greater than or equal to 1, then we can check if the dog is male by saying if dog gender is equal to 1, then we can print the output format of class male names, and then we're going to index the int version. Well, if the random number is already int, so we can just do random number and then do that, and then we can break the code. All right. And in fact, I'm gonna do the backslash n here. We're gonna do a backslash t here and a backslash t here, because it's kind of like the way that looked on the other program. And we're gonna have a there's a backslash n already here. Cool. All right, so now we need to check if the dog is female. So check if dog is female. I forgot the is here. Check if dog male. Check if dog is male. Check if dog is female. And we'll say if dog gender is equal to 2, then we can print, and then we can do the output format class male names, and then the random number. And then we can break. Oh, I'm sorry, this should be female names, right? Female, yeah, cool. And then this will break. So now we can do our exception. For the gender. So in case if they inputted, like when we asked what is your dog's gender right here, and we got the dog's gender, and if that isn't like 1 or 2, then we can just print so we're going to say else. All right, so first of all, this should be elif, and then else, because if it's not 1 and it's 2, so we can say else, and we can print you did not choose 1 or 2. What we'll do 1 for male, or so you not choose 1 for male, or 2 for female. And then we'll do a new line, and then we'll continue. So that way they can try again. And otherwise, we can go back here and we can make our exception for the random number. And we can do else, and we can do print number not between 1 and 5, try again. And then \n, that, and that. There you go. And then we can have the code continue so they can try again. And that's it. So we can actually run this. Invalid syntax. Oh, I forgot a colon. Oh, I put the escape sequence out of the string. There you go. There you go. So dog name generator. What is your dog's gender? Male or female? So we'll choose female. And you say pick a number between 1 and 5. Let's pick the number 3. And you should name your dog Sadie. All right, so let's fix the string real quick. Where it says pick a number. And then we can do that. So let's rerun it. So 1, and then we'll choose, I don't know, 1. You should name your dog Sam. Cool. And basically this simulates randomness, basically, right? So it chooses whatever number we choose will be the index of what outputs, right? So we chose the number 1, so it's going to get the first index of the male names and give us Sam. So let's do the error detection real quick and see if it's not going to crash if we type in something random. And then if we choose 4, it's going to say you did not choose a number between, or you did not choose 1 for male or 2 for female. In module 9, I think, we're going to cover exception handling. So how to, if an error like this occurs, you can fix your code. So although the code does work, like we can do, 1, and then let's choose like 4, and you should name your dog Junior. So the code works. But in module 9, we'll talk about how you can handle errors like this, so that way it doesn't just crash your code. and pop this up, but rather it would say you can't do this or you can't do that, or etc. So we're going to talk about that in Module 9. I think it's Module 9 that we covered in. But yeah, so hopefully you guys enjoyed this project. It was a pretty cool name generator. You can do this for whatever you want, really. Hopefully this inspired you, give you some good ideas for other projects or practices you can do. So if you guys are taking this course on the website, make sure to keep practicing and then do the quiz in the bottom right to make sure that you know what you're doing, or to see where your progress is at. And if you're taking this on YouTube, you should definitely consider heading over to the website and taking the course there, because it's a lot. How do I say this? The course is a lot more straightforward. It's split up into different modules, and it's a lot easier to interact with, and you can test yourself. Plus, you can get a certificate upon completion for, I think it's like $15, but it's still free on the website, just as it is. Just as it is on YouTube, but it's just the interface might be a little bit easier for you to manage your progress and stuff. So, regardless, I will see you guys in the next module. But before we go, let's check out what projects we did in this module. You can see we made 6 different projects. We made 6 different projects. And in the next module, we'll be talking about, we're going to be talking about more data structures. So there's other data structures other than this that can hold multiple values, and we're going to get into those in the next module. So I'll see you guys over there. So I hope you guys like this video. Make sure to like, subscribe to the whole YouTube algorithm thing, and I will see you guys over there. So stay happy, stay positive, and as always, happy hacking.